All right, so recently I've had some questions regarding my setup and in particular this stomp board that I built that I'm going to have available on the Devil's Tail site for anybody interested. Um, when it comes to using your feet, I mean that's an instrument, quote unquote, that doesn't get talked about much, but an integral part of country blues. And in my own style, my own playing, I want to try to get that pure, authentic, country blues feel with some of the electric blues tones and sounds and songs. So I'm kind of teeter-tottering on that line there of early electric and country blues. So I like the footboard. I use my feet a lot. It's a big part of my sound, and I think a lot of those guys use their feet a lot. I've read stories of guys like Babyface Leroy, that he would always have that foot going, and if he got it really into it, he might even use both feet. So I think those guys use their feet a lot, and as they used amplification, it was kind of masked or buried under the sound, but it's something that I wanted to incorporate into my own playing. And it's nothing new. I mean, there's guys that have come up with stomp boards and guys that use bass drums and you can make it an elaborate kit, if you like. I just wanted to keep it real simple. In the early Silver Kings days, I used a suitcase bass drum, and I had a bass drum pedal hooked up to it, and it worked well. But I never really got comfortable using it. For some reason, just having my foot elevated and having it to do it that way just was unnatural. So I always wanted something that was just like my feet on the floor. Just, more and more, I like just like a foot kind of like pacing, like just a real mellow foot sound, to like a walking kind of rhythm. That's what I prefer. So I wanted to come up with something that would work well for that. Something simple, easy to carry, and not a lot of gadgets and things to bring to the gigs and whatnot. So, most players use their feet naturally when they're playing, but if you start looking at their feet, their feet are all over the place. A lot of players that aren't used to playing with the help of having a drummer. When you put audio to that foot, and you have to hear it and coordinate your instrument along with that beat, you realize how off your feet are. So this is a great tool to get your timing squared away. And if you're doing a solo or duo or trio gig without drums, this is a great tool, instrument that will help fill in the cracks and keep your timing in check and add a little bit to your performance. And like I said, I've tried different pedals and boards and things to get, a foot sound. And often what I found was, whatever I was using would slowly move forward out of my reach. So this board here, it's cut on the router, precision cut on the router. And I have some holes here for my chair legs to fit through to keep it from sliding forward. And there's foam on the bottom, which kind of helps it from moving around and also raises it off the floor a little bit, which I think improves the tone a little bit. But having your foot flat on the ground is just, for me, a real natural feel versus trying to like hit a pedal or something like that. And sometimes I like to use my heel, sometimes I like to use my toe. I like to mix it up for different sounds and for different feels and different rhythms and different speeds of songs. I like to use my foot in different ways. So this affords me to be able to do that without being like stuck with using a pedal all the time or something like that. So this is real natural. It's not like having to learn a new instrument, other than just getting your timing down. It's just real natural, it's just flat and very easy to use. So here's the board I came up with. Here's a few pictures. You can have a look at the different angles and things like that. Yeah, so here you can see the transducer mic, and the mic is really sensitive. So I run it back through my chair, because if you touch the cord and you start moving the cord around, you'll hear it if you have it turned up high. And you can see how the chair legs fit in there and kind of lock the board in place. And then, you know, I like to run my mic stand real close to me like that. So the tripod fits nicely right in that little slot, and it's got, you know, kind of an elongated shape, so you can slide the mic stand around and get it where you want it. And this is just like a traditional like 50s, 60s foldable chair. I may also offer them without the leg holes. I'll have to see, but I'll have to see what people are using as far as chairs and stools and whatnot. But this works well for this setup. That's what it looks like. So I'm running the Stomp Board with the transducer mic into this Gretsch amp. It's a large cabinet, but it just has a 12-inch speaker in it. I usually do vocals in the Stomp Board through this, and then my guitar through a separate amp. Yeah, so you can, so here it is with no amp, just natural sound. And you can get that volume, you know, where you want it in the mix compared to the guitar. And where you stomp on the board, you know, will change the sound. You know, if you're out here on the sides, you know, you get a deeper sound. You know, if you're closer, you get a brighter sound. So you can kind of play with that and figure out what you like best. So here's an example of how it sounds with an amp. I got my guitar going through this other Gretsch over here. Again, the footboard is going through this larger Gretsch amp. And I run this vintage Masco mixer so I can plug multiple things in and control the volume within reach, especially since my Gretsch doesn't have any volume or tone. You know, I can at least micro adjust the volume on that, and I can adjust the my vocal mic. And if I'm running all three into one amp, I can adjust the footboard on here as well. So that's a really cool thing. Kind of hard to find, but I've seen other guys that have them too. I'm sure there's some other kind of mixers and things that you could plug multiple things into and do a similar kind of thing with. But this is my setup. Pretty cool. It's got
It's got 4 inputs. This is just real simple. I think there's some other ones around that had tubes inside and whatnot, that had power. This doesn't have power. This is just a mixer, but pretty cool thing. So here's what a board looks like off the router, unfinished. You know, I usually finish the edge a little bit with some light sanding, and then there's a protective piece of plastic here that gets peeled off, and then the foam and might get added to it. But it's 1/2 inch thick, so nice solid piece. I made a few out of the batch that I ran for my own, so I have a couple laying around, and I can do more if the demand is there.